I chose was The Things They Carried. Today we're going to look at the plot and theme of The Things They Carried and the difference between these two in literature. So plot is the structure of a novel, short story, or poem, or play. It is the sequence of events that occurs within a work of literature. In much simpler words, it's what happens in the piece. So plot is broken down into a series of subsections that include exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. Exposition is the revelation, usually by recitation of events that occurred before the opening scene in a play or story. Rising action is the incidence in the plot between the complication and the climax, usually a change from real or figurative prosperity to a state of poverty. Climax is the point in the plot when the conflict reaches its highest tension. The conflict is resolved at the climax. Falling action is the events in a play or story, a sequence of consequences that occur after the climax. And resolution is the part of the story after the climax has ended the conflict. Because the conflict has been resolved, the resolution returns the story to a state of equilibrium like it was prior to the exposition. So within The Things They Carried, the plot can be broken down as so. It includes the exposition, where the speaker introduces us to all the main characters. He gives us an insight into their personalities based on personal items they chose to take with them into the war. For example, this narrator carries letters and pictures from the girl that he's in love with from back home, who does not necessarily love him back. The speaker also tells us about the various military items that they must carry into battle based on their jobs or personal preferences. Therefore, we go into rising action, which is the speaker beginning to give the audience a look into the daily lives of these men in battle. He shows us their assignments, their ranks, and the roles that they each play in the team. He tells us a story of their current job, which is to find tunnels and essentially blow them up or destroy them. The narrator tells us some of what Vietnam is like and the daily marches that they must take. His tone is overall very straightforward, and he tells it like it is. Climax is once the men reach the new tunnel that they have to destroy, the speaker shares that each man must draw a number to see who has to climb into the tunnel and check it out, make sure it's all clear before they actually blow it up. The main narrator continues to tell us stories about this girl that he's in love with from back home. He tells us he's a daydreamer, and he tells us that he cannot focus on the war, only this girl that he loves. All is calm, and all of the men are waiting around for that man who got chosen to go in the tunnel to return. He finally reaches surface again, and everyone in this team are elated. The narrator told us previously that the day seemed to be almost too calm, almost too perfect. And then one man named Ted Lavender is returning from using the restroom during this miniature celebration of the man in the tunnel's return when he's shot point blank in the head and falls to the ground lifeless. Therefore, we get to falling action, which is the death of Ted Lavender. And the death of Ted Lavender causes much emotional turmoil for our narrator. He blames himself for not being focused on the war and instead being focused on this woman that he loves, whom he's not sure loves him back. He's upset, angered, frustrated, and heartbroken at this death. He takes it very hard. He takes it very harshly and even burns both the pictures and letters that this woman gave him. Through this, he vows to not only focus on the war, but to also keep his men in line. The resolution is that the narrator tells us a lot of these physical items that the soldiers carry. He also tells us all of the very emotional items that they must carry with them at all times. This war has done quite the damage physically to these men, but it also has damaged them greatly in the emotional sense. The narrator finishes his story sharing that he understands the emotional scars these men have to heal, but he also understands his job is to lead and direct them through those. He vows to be the leader they need so that they never have to experience that kind of heartache again as the war lasts. Then we move into theme, which is Very different from plot, theme is what the novel, short story, poem, or play is about. Theme deals with the underlying meaning behind what the author was saying in their work of literature. In literature, theme deals with the message being relayed through the plot or structure. Theme must be expressed in a complete sentence, and in one piece there can be multiple themes found that are all valid, but all themes must be backed up with textual evidence. There are a few strategies to find theme, and one way is to ask yourself two very central questions. What is the literature about, and what does the story say about that? For example, within this literature, The Things They Carried, what is The Things They Carried about? This story is about a team of men battling in the Vietnam War. He is telling stories about the things these men carry. These things include the physical items that they carry with them from home and their weapons or military equipment. The narrator even tells us the emotional things that they carry with them. More specifically, he shares the weight of all these things that the men must carry with them. What does the things they carried say about the weight of the things the men carried into battle? This story tells us exactly how much the physical things weigh that the men have to carry on them as they march. It also explains how much heavier the emotional items are that they carry on them as well. The weight of the experiences they face and the emotional scars left behind could never amount to the physical items they carry. Far beyond the war, these men will have to continue to carry those emotional burdens. So the theme in the things they carried, the theme that I identified within the things they carried, is that many people carry emotional weight from the things that they experience or go through in life, and the emotional weight weighs far more than the physical things in life. The textual evidence that I found were, quote, they carried their own lives. The pressures were enormous, unquote. This is found in the story, page 366. And I found two very important quotes that back up my theme. Quote, they carried all the emotional baggage of men who might die: grief, terror, love, longing. These were intangible, but the intangible has their own mass. Page 370. And again on page 370, quote, they carried shameful memories, they carried the reputations, they carried the soldier's greatest fear. By and large, they carried these things inside, maintaining the mass of composure, unquote. As I mentioned prior, there can be many themes within one work of literature. This is just one theme that I had identified and was able to back up with evidence from the text. This is my works cited.